You can do Nayania Baria, Nayania Manania, Manania. You can do Nayania Baria, Nayania Manania, Manania.
From the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council, this is the A Cuppa and a Yarn podcast.
Hello and welcome to A Cuppa and a Yarn from the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council. My name's Michelle Aleksandrovics-Lovegrove. My guest this episode is Mahalia Murphy, Gamilaroi woman at one of the brightest stars in Australian rugby. Mahalia is known for her lightning speed and ability to find the try line and has played for Australia on some of the biggest stages around the world. But although donning gold has been a mission, it's one of many as her life story unfolds. Mahalia says her success is possible because of hard work, taking advantage of opportunities, and the solid support of her family and community. I hope you enjoy A Cuppa and a Yarn with Mahalia Murphy. Mahalia Murphy, welcome to A Cuppa and a Yarn.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we'll start at the beginning, as I do with people when we sit down and have a yarn. Who's your mob?
So my mob's all Gamilaroi, from northwest of New South Wales.
Okay, but you live in Sydney?
Yep, I was born in Blacktown Hospital and I grew up in Doonside, which is the western suburbs of Sydney.
Right, and you're currently living in Marylands, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Me and my partner have just recently moved to Marylands, got our own house together, so it's good to have our own space and much closer to where I work, so it's a bit easier for me to get to training.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's a real, up-and-coming area just around that part of Western Sydney, sort of finding. There's a lot, everything's there, basically, that you could need.
Yeah, definitely. I think where I'm living now is a really convenient spot. Everything that I need is close by, and I think it's very central from my family as well to the city as well. So I'm kind of in between, halfway to my family and to the city, so it's good. It's very good.
Yeah. So your family's in Doonside, Blacktown area?
Yeah, my immediate family's in Doonside, and my extended family's all from Walgett, so they're all out west. Yeah. Yeah.
Walgett.
Yeah, that's where my mob's from.
Yeah, God bless. So with your family, with growing up, what was it like growing up in Doonside as a child?
I really enjoyed growing up in Doonside. I felt like Doonside was such a community feel, and I think that the community, it was just one of those communities where everyone kind of knew each other and knew what everyone was doing, and just very supportive of each other as well. So if you've seen someone growing up through doing footy, everyone would know about it and they'd support that person, and then that ongoing support was there. Yeah.
Is it still like that?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it is. So from when I started, that's where I basically started doing my sport, was in Doonside. So a lot of people kind of, could see the potential in me. And then once I started to, move up the ranks of representing Australia, a lot of people were proud to say, I know that girl, we used to train together, we used to play together. So we stay very strong, connected to each other, and their support's been amazing. And they're a big part of why I am where I am today.
So with growing up there as a child, you got siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 sisters and a brother.
Okay. Any interesting stories or something funny or any childhood memories that you care to share?
Yeah, well, I'm the baby of the family, so I was the one that was so overprotective of, and my older sister Hinny, she's passed away now, but she was always the protective one of me. So when my other sister Venus and my brother, would pick on me or they wouldn't let me do something, my older sister would be there to be like, let her play with you, stop picking on her. So she was always the protective one of me, and I was the one that was just the sookie, that wanted to be a part of everything, but they wanted to hang with their friends, and they were like, you can't do this is all, for the adults and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to play that as well, because where we lived as well was really good, because we lived in a cul-de-sac, so everyone in the street knew each other, and we'd always go out after school and do things together, and that was really awesome. But yeah, I think that's something that I remember from my childhood as siblings. The ones that I used to want to be a part of wouldn't let me be part of them as much as I'd like to be, but my older sister would always be the protective one to be like, let her be part of it, let her do it, let her have fun. But I think growing up as well, our family really struggled as well, because when I was 4 years old, Mum had a car accident and she was in hospital for about a year and a half. And my older sister ended up moving away to Walgett. She moved away to Walgett, and then my sister Venus kind of had to take the responsibility of me and my brother. And my dad was working night shifts, so he was kind of away when we'd finish school and stuff like that. So my older sister kind of took over. And she was about 16, 17 at that age, so she was at the back end of high school. And she was also going through that phase where she thought she knew what she wanted and she had, control of doing whatever she wanted to do. And we really struggled because Mum was away at the hospital, Dad was, night shift work, so it was just us siblings at home, and trying to learn as well from my older siblings, which is what I did. Just seeing their experiences and what they've done and stuff like that. I kind of learnt from my older siblings. So we ended up moving away to my nan's in Coonamble because my mum was away and it was just too much for our family. For my sister, at that age, at a young age, trying to take the responsibility of looking after me and my brother was a bit too much for her, and she was kind of like losing herself as well. So we moved away to Coonamble, and then when Mum came back home, we all moved back home together in Doonside. And Mum was getting a lot of like medical attention, so people would come home and every day of the week to come and change Mum's leg, like because Mum's leg was really badly damaged, and her arms, and she had 5 surgeries in 1 year, so she was really struggling physically, to be there for us as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so she'd have a lot of medical attention throughout the week, and it was hard to see Mum sit like that in her house and not be able to do anything for herself. So she was very dependent on us, and we'd always try and help her as much as we could for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you're saying the physical impact on her, obviously, but the emotional and psychological.
Yeah, definitely. Like knowing Mum as well, like hearing all the stories before, the accident, she was a very hardworking woman and very fit, and, very much like what me and my siblings were, like at a younger age, very active, wanting to do every sport. So that's what, I feel like we get it from is our mother. But now it's made a massive like physical effect on her. She can't really walk any longer than 5 meters, and then her legs start to ache, and then she's doing hydrotherapy at the moment, so it kind of like helps her to get moving in the water. It just takes the weight off her because she's gained a lot of weight from the accident, not being able to move. But I think it gives us and my siblings, me and my siblings, that drive to kind of want to make her proud and make her feel like she's done something for us in a way as well. So she definitely has, despite being in the car accident and not being in there for a year and a half for us physically, but we knew she had to kind of get better and bring her home, and so she can be there for us.
I have read a bit about you, with you crediting very much so as one of your greatest supporters is your mum.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she definitely is. And I think when she came home and and because I was the baby and my older siblings didn't finish school, like they didn't finish through year 12, she was always wanting me to be that person that would finish year 12. So she'd always, encourage me to go to school every day. She'd encourage me to, compete in sports and stuff like that, because I was very active as a kid. Growing up, as I said, I learnt from my siblings, watching them do, what they did at, in high school and in primary school. So I learnt from them, and after the incident that happened with Mum being in the car accident, I really wanted to make Mum proud. So I was always going to school. I would always compete in, school activities that were available, and, I'd try and be the best I could be, because I was such a competitive little kid. And, once I finished high school, Mum was like, you're really good at working with communities and, good at being in sport. So, why don't you do something in that, in that industry? So she'd always encouraged me to do stuff. So then I actually went down an hour after school and studied policing. So I did policing through the Indigenous program.
Okay. The iProud?
iProud, yeah. So I studied that down in Bomaderry, down south, and moved away from home for about 6 to 8 months. And I would, study throughout the week, and then on a Friday night I'd come back home to Mum's, and then I'd play league and union on the weekends. And then on Sundays I'd go back on the train, and then I'd study throughout the week again. So I completed my studies through policing, and then come back on the weekends. And then once I finished studying policing, I moved back with Mum, and just really found passion for rugby after I started playing on the weekends with my older sister. I started doing that on the weekends, and then that's how I kind of started to be where I am today.
From the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council, this is A Cuppa and a Yarn.
Yeah.
You're listening to A Cuppa and a Yarn. I'm Michelle Aleksandrovics-Lovegrove, and I'm speaking with Mahalia Murphy. We're sitting in a cafe having a bit of a cuppa and a yarn, a little bit of food as well. You were really into athletics, and then there's rugby league and rugby union, etc. So, did all that start quite young for you?
Yeah. As I said, like when I was little, I was a very active kid. And just naturally fast, and everyone could see that about me. And I think from the moment that Kathy Freeman won the gold medal at the 2000 Olympics, I kind of set my eye on that, and that was my goal, was to go to the Olympics and, hopefully, win a gold medal. So when I was in school, primary school, I would compete in athletics carnivals, and once I finished primary school, I had been offered a scholarship to go to Hill Sports High School, which was there was a program there called TSP, and it's a talented sport program, and you'd go there for your selective sport, and mine was athletics, and we'd train 2 days a week throughout the week, and then compete in your sporting activities. So I'd go and compete in sprinting, jumping for athletics, and was fortunate enough to go all the way to nationals. So that's how I kind of started athletics, was just being an active kid, and then, having the potential to be a sprinter and a jumper. So that's what I did in high school. And then I really set my focus on being, an athlete, and that's where I think it kick-started for athletics for me, was through high school.
So how did the league come in? How did the union come in? League came in first, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So after league, after athletics, I started playing league for my local team, Doonside. So we would play on the Saturdays, and I'd go down and train with the girls throughout the week, and then we'd play on a Saturday in the women's competition. And then it was probably within a month that the rugby 15s came up, and that's when my older sister was playing. So I started playing with them. So I was doing both union and league on the weekends, and was juggling that for a couple of years,
Well, I've got all my little notes here. This is other notes, but I've got her lightning speed has seen her picked to represent Australia in both 7s and 15s. This is in the rugby union.
Yeah.
So you started off in the 15s, eh?
15. I started playing 15s first,
Yeah. How did things progress from there for you? Clearly quite fast.
It did happen pretty quick. So as I said, I was playing union and league on the weekends, and then the Korea knockout came up, and then I started playing in the Korea knockout. So Dean Witters was the Indigenous All-Stars coach at that time. So he kind of selected from the Korea knockout and the Queensland Murray Cup up in Queensland. So we kind of got recognised through that as well for the Korea knockout. And then when we played for the Indigenous All-Stars, we played against the Australian All-Stars, which was basically the Australian national team. So the coach of that was the coach for the Australian team. So he had seen me perform for the Indigenous All-Stars, and then I had received an email and asked if I was interested in going to the Australian Rugby League training camp up in Queensland, and that was my first kind of insight of the Australian team for league. So I kind of got recognised for that, and then I was selected to play against the New Zealand team up in Suncorp in 2015, and that's where I made my debut for Australia. So that was the first time I had been involved with the Australian team, and as well as playing rugby 15s on the weekend, I was selected for the New South Wales rugby 15s team as well. So we were playing at nationals and playing against Queensland and other states. So I was kind of in the system for 15s, and then once I played for that Australian league team, the Australian Sevens coach had contacted me because I'm guessing he had watched that game, and saw potential in me switching codes, and he contacted me within a month after playing for the Australian league team, and then that's when it kind of started to happen really quick. And then after playing for the Australian league team, I switched over to the Australian Sevens team, and that's where we went to Papua New Guinea and played the Pacific Games. And then after that tournament, that's when I earned my full-time contract with the Australian Rugby Sevens team.
Yeah. You've been to Brazil as well? You've been all over the world.
Yeah, we've travelled a fair few places, and Brazil was the place where I debuted, actually. So that's where I officially debuted for the Australian Rugby Sevens team in Sao Paulo.
How exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting because, as growing up, I was so driven for athletics. And, one little game, playing with the 15s with my sister's team, which wasn't even planned, to be honest. Like, it happened because not enough girls had turned up for the game. So I was always the water runner for the team. And then a lot of the girls didn't actually come to the game, and they were asking my mum, can Mahalia play for us, Can she jump on the wing just for a couple of minutes just to help the girls out, because the girls were exhausted with having to play the full game with no substitute. So Mum was like, no, like, I don't want her to play because she does athletics, and I don't want her to get injured because she won't be able to run. And then it wasn't until like the second half of the game that Mum was convinced to say yes. So Mum was like, okay, chuck her on there then. So I jumped on the wing. I didn't really understand the game. Like, I didn't know the rules or anything. I just knew that you got to catch a ball, run, and score a try over the line. So that's what I basically went with. So the ball was getting closer to me, and I just got really nervous, but I was like, just catch the ball, run as fast as you can. And the ball came out to me, and I had no idea. And, the girls were so far away, but I just tippy-toed along the sideline and sprinted all the way up along the sideline and just put the ball down. And then I think that's where I realised the love for the game, because I think it's so different towards athletics, because athletics is such an individual sport where it's you against everybody else. Whereas, rugby, it's like a team, inclusive, teamwork environment. So I think, having other people around you and then, working with people as well was something that I really loved, because it was always me against everyone else in athletics. And I think that's where my passion kind of, really ticked off to play rugby.
How old were you then?
The first time I played with them was 14.
Right.
I was actually 14, but that was only one game. That's when Mum was like, no, she does athletics. But then I had to wait until I finished high school to actually play, because I wasn't old enough.
Right.
Yeah, so when I finished high school, that's when I was studying and doing the policing program down in Nowra, and then I could come back on the weekends because that's when I was old enough. So then I signed up and started playing league and union on the weekends.
What an amazing story.
Yeah.
But that story about I was the one who ran around with the water, and it was just, you just sort of like fell into it because they had a hole and they were just like, put her in.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling that.
That's
okay.
okay.
Really fantastic. This is A Cuppa and a Yarn. I'm Michelle Lovegrove, and I'm speaking with Mahalia Murphy about how you got started in rugby and certainly, your sport prowess across your whole life and, into teen years as well. You got your contract, so that was after the 2015 Australian Sevens, that's right. What happened after that? You've represented Australia, but sort of how's that sort of run along for you?
Yeah, when I first kind of joined the Australian Rugby Sevens team, it was quite intense for me because I wasn't used to that kind of intensity of training, and I wasn't exposed to the Australian team as quick as I thought I would be. I was playing social footy before that, and I had only been 2 years into playing rugby, so I was still fairly new and still learning and stuff like that. So when I went there, I went in at, the most intense part of the season was pre-season. And sevens itself is such an intense sport. You got 7 people on a full field, and it's just, you're basically almost in every second ruck because it's just that quick. And then when I went there and had my first training session, I was just blown away by the intensity and the skill that the girls had, and the fitness levels that there was across the board of the players. And I just remember thinking, this is insane. Like, it's such a great opportunity, but I realised it was very tough in the first training. But we were prepping to go away to Papua New Guinea, so I was excited, knowing that I was going to go away to Papua New Guinea overseas, and play for the Australian Rugby Sevens team. So, yeah, I found it very challenging when I first got into the team because of the fitness intensity and, having to learn everything and learn so quickly as well. But I really enjoyed it as well, and I think that's what I enjoy about Rugby Sevens, is that it's very challenging in many ways. It challenges you, your fitness-wise, and to think under fatigue, because, most of the time when you're on the field, like you're playing under fatigue because it's so quick, and it's only 7-minute halves. So, and it seems like 80 minutes because it's like,
so intense.
It's so intense.
Yeah.
But it's not as long as rugby 15s or rugby league. But yeah, it's very challenging.
Would you say sevens is more challenging than 15s, but in a different way, I guess?
Yeah, it definitely is more intense, I feel, for individuals, because, the ball gets passed and you're basically in the ruck, and then 1 minute you're running the ball. Whereas 15s, you got your forward pack, you got your back line, you can kind of chill out in the back until your forwards are punching it up. Whereas in sevens, you know, you're passing the ball, you've got to support that person, and then you've got to pass the ball again, and then you've got to run, you know. So it's like, I think in that kind of aspect of fitness, like it's so much more intense and more challenging. But I think 15s is such a long game, so you've got to play 80 minutes. So it's longer halves, but I personally feel you can play under a lot more quality, because you're not, your heart rate's not up as much as it is in sevens. Yeah.
I think I'm not sure if you are now, so I apologise for not being completely up to date. I mean, you were working as a community ambassador.
Rugby Australia.
For Rugby Australia.
Yeah. So I would spend a lot of time going out to like rural areas. So I went out to Dubbo, you know, Armidale, Tamworth, Nyngan. We went out to Nyngan and did some like, you know, community work with the kids there. And
are you still doing that?
Not with Rugby Australia,
okay.
But with like Waratahs and, you know, sometimes in here and there they'll still ask me to do stuff, but I'm not in that role anymore. But I'm happy to do it anyways, because I'm still a part of the rugby community. So I'd go out to, you know, different places in Australia and just help encourage kids, you know, where, you know, they don't have the opportunity like a lot of clubs do in Sydney. You know, just to give them a bit of inspiration and opportunity to, you know, to feel included into our sport and give them some hope and, you know, some experience of, you know, doing some skills with the rugby ball, you know, playing, learning about rugby and hearing my story as well, because my mob's from Walgett, and so I work closely with the areas around Walgett. And, you know, once the kids knew I was from, like, my mob's from Walgett, they were like, what, really? You know, like, that's cool. So it kind of gave them that hope to, you know, to kind of aspire to be, you know, whatever they wanted to be, regardless of what it was, whether it was rugby or athletics or netball or soccer. And you can really feel the impact as well, because, you know, I remember being a kid and I remember having, you know, role models come through our school and speak about their experiences and how they got to where they were. And it was like, you know what, they shared about, you know, the struggles that they've been through. So they're, you know, it wasn't just given to them easily. Like, they had to work for it as well, despite, you know, the challenges that they face as well. So it kind of, like, I personally felt that impact as well. So I knew that every time I'd go out to the communities and work with kids, and the more I share about myself, because, you know, they only see what they see on TV. They see a person playing for their country, but they don't know the journey. So I think that's really important as a role model, as an athlete, you know, or a figure, to really go out there and engage with community, because it gives them that insight of what you've been through and what you've handled to be where you are today. It's not just given to us. So for the people that are out there struggling, they can, you know, really be inspired by that story and feel that as well. It gives them that hope, and, you know, it just opens their eyes.
Well, thinking of, you know, your big role model as a child being Kathy Freeman, and I think you wanted to be the next Kathy Freeman, didn't you? But, you know, you're doing it in a different way. And I'm sure you had other people around you in the years since who you've been able to aspire to or look up and admire them in your journey?
So when I started playing league and union, I really loved watching Greg Inglis. Greg Inglis was a massive, you know, he was my role model when I started playing league, because we both played the same positions, and he played for the Waratahs at the time as well, which was my team that I went for. So I'd always looked up to Greg Inglis, and I was very fortunate enough to work with him when I played for the Indigenous All-Stars. So we went out to the communities and, you know, engaged with the communities up in Queensland before we played. And, yeah, I think that's something that's the beauty of sport as well. Like, you know, you might look up to people, but then, you know, you might cross paths and be able to do some work together, and it's just crazy how much of an impact it can make.
And so you're repeating that impact, you know, with the young people as well. Do you find, you know, just with the kids, when you've been working with them, clearly, you know, and it's about individuals as well, some will gravitate to others, but I would imagine that you would be a really fantastic role model for girls, for young girls in particular.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like me as well, growing up playing footy, because when I played my first ever game for league, I was actually 10 years old, but I had only played like half a season, and there was only me and one other girl in the team, and it was all the boys. You know, being the only two females in the team, it was very difficult at times, because the boys would want to do their own thing, and, you know, it was kind of like, oh, you know, the boys wanted to do their own thing. So me and Jess, which was the other girl, would try and, showcase our talent or, use our speed to, tell prove to the boys we can play footy too. So I think going out into the communities and trying to, encourage girls to get involved with rugby, and you come across a different kind of variety of girls that some are confident in playing rugby, some ain't. Some want to play, but they don't know how to. So I think just trying to, same as before, share the story, talk about your experiences as being a female playing rugby, and the challenges and how to face the challenge and how to grow a bit of confidence in doing it. Just really, it gives the kids the insight and the confidence to really push for themselves because they see it happen, they hear that it's happened, so they think I can do it too. So it just really inspires them. So I think it's awesome that there's a lot of females that are out there, getting involved with the communities and showing the girls that they can play rugby too.
You're listening to A Cuppa and a Yarn from the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council. I'm Michelle Lovegrove. I'm speaking with Mahalia Murphy, and we'll be back after the break.
From the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council, you're listening to A Cuppa and a Yarn.
Just harking back to what we're talking about, inspiring children, young people, girls and boys too. I mean, I'm sure that you attract admiration from everybody when you go to assist kids in communities or go to speak at schools. Looking at intensity, is that something that I'd imagine you do when you talk to them and just go, look, it's not for the faint-hearted though, you've got to work hard.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said, sharing the story as well, and the personal stories as well, that not just that I challenge, but my family challenges as well. So I think, going out there and speaking to the kids, it's not about going, I'm Mahalia Murphy, I play for the Australian team, this is how I started and this is how I am today. I think sharing those stories on the challenges and how to, change your mindset in those situations to kind of push you through those times, to get you closer to where you want to be, is something that every kid needs to know, because everyone's going to face the challenges in life, and it's about how your attitude is to determine where you will end up in the future. So, it's so easy for people to get distracted as well with influences and, bad things happening around, communities and stuff like that. So I think that just giving that insight on how much your mentality and the way you think and the way you choose your decisions is a big factor of where you'll end up in the future. So it is very intense because, everyone experiences different experiences through life, and everyone has different lifestyles and, different struggles to face and stuff like that. So I think, just encouraging the kids to really have passion for what they want to do and know that there are opportunities out there. It's just about them having to work for it and to look for it, because it's not just going to pop up all the time in front of your face. You've got to work for it and look for it and seek it yourself.
You're inspiring me. You'd be really good. I'm sitting here just going, yeah, I can do it. Not be a rugby player.
Hey, I reckon you could.
Oh, no.
I reckon you could.
Oh, my goodness me. Thank you. That's going to make my day now. But talking about that intensity with you, certainly participating over time in 7s and 15s, etc., we do have the very famous LS7s coming up. You've taken part in that. You've played in that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I've played a couple of times for the LS7s, yeah.
Yeah. What's it like for you?
It's very exciting, I feel. I personally feel like, it's like another crew knockout, but a different code.
Yep.
The mob gets together, they represent their communities, they represent their culture, they represent their families. So you can really feel the pride in the tournament that the players have for each other, and, it's good because everyone can have a laugh and feel comfortable around each other. It's very different because you can feel and see the confidence in each other, and just the fun. You can feel the fun compared to, my personal experiences, like seeing people come from, rural areas of Australia and then coming into a Sydney team, especially an Australian team. They feel very, not really intimidated, but not as confident. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you see them coming into the LS7s comp or the Korea knockout, and they're around their mob and they're around their, the people, they can feel the confidence in themselves because they know they can be comfortable and they know that everyone's pretty much kicked back and can have a laugh. Not saying that, the mixed teams ain't, but they just have that feeling of, confidence and being, around their mob. I think, like, the LS7s is just an amazing comp. And it just brings everyone together, and sometimes, communities don't even connect that often, and people don't connect to other communities so often. But when it comes to the crew knockout and the LS7s, it just brings everyone together. And you can just see the pride and the happiness and the excitement and the fun that everyone has playing in the LS7s.
Everyone's there for the rugby, but it's more than that. It's much more than that. It's about community, getting together, all sorts of things. Yeah, definitely. And you can feel it when you're there as well. It's just something else that, it's very rare to feel in different kind of comps and stuff like that, but you can just feel the pride and the happiness that everyone, and the comfortability as well, like everyone's comfortable around each other and they can go out there and express themselves in the field. And I think, our people are so well suited to rugby sevens as well. A lot of natural talent that have speed, known for a lot of speed and a lot of skill, and having that much space on the field as well, they're very well suited to the game. So as far as you go at the moment, what are you, you were training your partner's mum this morning. What are you sort of doing on a daily basis?
3 days a week I'll be training.
Yep.
And then on the days around that, I'll be working with communities as well. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, I'm just training, basically training for the Waratahs at the moment, the New South Wales team and the Super W comp. So we play on the weekends, and they'll go for another 6 weeks, and then the Australian Rugby 15s team start to have their camps, and we have 6 test matches this year. So that's my plan for the next month, is just the Super W, training 3 days a week and working with communities.
Mm-hmm. Just for people who, you're saying I'm training 3 days a week, who sort of go, well, what does that mean? Can you just quickly run us through your training tomorrow?
So I'm training tomorrow,
So what would you be doing?
Yep, so we'll get there around 5:30, do a bit of a stretch and roll just to get our bodies, moving. And then we'll basically do a check-in. So we have to kind of weigh in or what we weigh. So it's just more for hydration. So what we weigh in prior to the training session, and then we weigh out post the session. So then we see how much fluid we've lost in our body. So then we have to replace it. So we'll do our check-in, and then everyone will get strapped for the session. So a lot of people that have nigglies, they will strap up or do some stretching for that part, to activate their bodies. And then we'll have like a team meeting to run through what our session will look like and what we're looking at to do throughout the session and why we're doing that. And then we'll go out in the field, do our field session, run through back moves. The backs will do their stuff, the forwards will split up and do their scrums and their line-outs. And then we'll come together and do like a team run. And then after that, we'll do a gym session that will normally take around 45 minutes to an hour, and then after that we have dinner together, and then everyone just leaves and goes home.
But again, it still sounds like it's pretty intense.
Yeah, yes, it definitely is. We spend about 3 hours together and it feels like 10. So, but it's good. It's very enjoyable.
Oh, fantastic. So that's the next month or so. Let's just say this year for you. How's that looking?
Yeah, good. Like I said earlier, we have 6 test matches for the Australian Rugby 15s team this year, and we've got the World Cup next year. So that's going to be in New Zealand, so close to home, and it's going to be very competitive for the Australian 15 squad to really put their hand up for the team as well. So I'll be focusing on those 6 test matches and hopefully get a spot in each 6 test match, and then hopefully leading into next year get chosen for the World Cup. So I'll be training really hard this year, as well as working with communities. So. Yeah.
With all of that, harking back to, and I think it was a particular article and interview that I read with you where it really sort of shone out your love for your mum, with everything that your mum's been through, everything that all of you guys have been through because of that accident. Now for her, how does it feel for you? How did it feel for you putting on the gold? I bet it was amazing.
It was a very emotional day when she got to witness me play for Australia, the Australian League team, because with her conditions it's very hard for her to travel, and she actually went up to Queensland and watched me play for the Australian League team, and her brother and sister, so my auntie and uncle as well, they came and watched as well. So to have my family in the crowd, especially my mum, because she's the one that's been there to support me throughout the whole journey, taking me to my training sessions when she could, and watching me train, and always being in my ear about going to school. Just trying to be the best mother she could be, to be the best person I am today, was just, it gives me chills to see her in the crowd, and just, you know, it's very emotional because it's like my mum's watching me play for Australia, you know, the challenges she's faced to be where she is today, and what she's done to give me the best opportunity to be the best athlete I could be, to get as far as I am today. It never goes unnoticed, you know, and I think that me and my mum share that special, you know, that moment where we, like, you know, she's always telling me, you know, you play for Australia, you know, you should be very proud of yourself. And I'm always like, yeah, but you're a big part of that, you know. So, you know, I give, you know, the thanks to you and you know, my family as well from supporting me the whole way. So it's very, I'm very grateful for my mum.
Do you ever remind her about that day when they said, let Mahalia play? She's like, no, and then gave in. Do you ever remind her about that? You know, Mum, look, if you didn't give in.
It's more Mum. Mum brings that up.
Yeah.
She's always like, you wouldn't be there if I didn't say yes. And I'm like, okay, you win.
Mahalia Murphy, thank you very, very much for your time today.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the best. And look, you know, I would love to, if possible, check in with you maybe a bit later on this year as you're sort of heading into World Cup territory.
Yeah, for sure. No
all
worries.
Right, brilliant.
Sounds
right.
good.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
You can do Nayania Baraya, Nayania Manania, Manania, Manania.